It is, of course, one of the most celebrated days here in the United States, the day we celebrate our independence and pay tribute to the men who declared it and the men and women who continue to fight for it. But this 4th of July, in a new Fox News poll, the majority of Americans say they believe the Founding Fathers would not be proud of today's America. Think about that for a minute. And this person will help you think about it. Presidential historian and author of All the President's Children, Doug Wead, is here to break it down for us. There is the book, Doug, and we're happy to have you. Before the Founding Fathers could be either proud or not proud, they'd have to probably be pretty happy that 241 years later, this experiment that they came up with is still here.
I think they'd be shocked. I think they'd be shocked.
Is there any documentation? Is there any way to go back? And did Jefferson or Adams or any of these guys memorialize how long they thought this would last?
Yes, they discussed it. In fact, when Benjamin Franklin came out after some of the deliberations, that was a very famous quote. They said, did you get us a document? Did you get us a government? And Franklin said, yes, like it was a baby being born. He said, yes, we've delivered for you a republic if you can keep it.
Well, and for 241 years, we have kept it. Where is the republic now? What do you think the founders would like? What wouldn't they like?
Leland, it's such a very delicate balance. They had experienced thousands of years of suffering at the hands of government, and so every little piece in it, intricate, like the Fifth Amendment, when someone says, I refuse to answer on the grounds it might incriminate. People just hate that. They say, oh, you must be a criminal to quote that. But all of these little pieces were an answer to the abuse that people had suffered through history. And now we're discarding those. We have politicians saying, we've had a president say, well, the Constitution has to be living, it has to be breathing. But the Constitution is not abstract art, it's law. So when you say the Constitution has to bend, it has to breathe, you're saying the law has to breathe.
Well, it's really, though, the Constitution, though, in that sense, at least if you think about how the founders looked at it, it's more than law. It's almost like the playbook or the map or the guide to the country. It sort of at least seems to be before the law, right? Before law was created, you had to have the Constitution. We often say now, as we listen to the political discourse and the tweets and the comments on social media, and then the rhetoric that happened in the past administration and about the past administration as well, that this is the most vitriolic, this is the worst it has ever been. And then you go back and you read what folks were saying about Washington and Franklin and Jefferson in the papers. They had it pretty tough back then, too.
They had it pretty tough. In fact, the Federalists and the Democrat-Republicans celebrated the 4th of July at separate events. They didn't even have a united event. You went to one or the other. So it gives you an idea. At least the Democrats and Republicans will shoot off firecrackers together tonight as much as they hate each other.
Was politics as personal? Did it get as mean? Did it get to the point where if you didn't agree with me, I might question your patriotism or your sanity or your fitness?
Yes, I know people don't want to believe that, but it's always been very mean right from the beginning. In fact, Jefferson was accused as mistress, that there were pamphlets put out about it. He retaliated against Adams and against Hamilton. And yes, it's all been there. Sex, all of it, right from the beginning.
The more things change, the more they stay the same. I guess you could say, well, I didn't know who I was quoting, but it was somebody. So there you go. I'm fascinated by your book about All the President's Children. And we have rarely seen a president's child or children who are involved as this president's children. Ivanka Trump has an office in the West Wing, son-in-law office in the West Wing, and then both of his sons were intimately involved in his campaign, still sort of act as surrogates at different times. Is there precedent for this?
Absolutely. 14 sons of the president served as personal secretary to the president with offices in the White House. And even before women became more prominent, when Andrew Johnson was impeached, he had a son, Robert, who worked in the White House, had an office, but his daughter ran things, Martha Johnson. She went down to Capitol Hill, said, I don't care what you think about my dad, we need appropriations to keep the White House running. She put the cows out on the South Lawn to milk cows, to embarrass Congress, to say, we'll get our own milk if you cheapskates can't pay for it. So women have been involved from the very beginning.
Children as well. Is there anything we can learn from the president's children? Is the way this president's children involved any different? What would be your advice to them based on what worked for president's children in the past?
Well, I would say that it's inevitable that these children would be involved. I saw it coming maybe before the Trumps themselves saw it coming, because you have to have people who are loyal and you have to have people who are competent. Everything else falls away, and your children will be loyal. You can fire chief of staff. They won't make it to the last station on the train, but you can't fire daughter. You can't fire son. They're always going to be at the table. And in the last year of his presidency, FDR, Anna Roosevelt was running the White House. I see Ivanka as extremely competent, talented person. It was inevitable she'd be in there. And I see the election of Donald Trump a wonderful metaphor for Independence Day, because this is Independence Day. And media said who we should vote for. Academia told us. Wall Street told us. All the money told us. Hollywood told us. Everybody said, here's who you should vote for. And those stubborn, independent, crazy Americans said, I believe we'll take the other guy. Thank you. That's
the founding fathers would have liked that part.
they'd like the independence of the American people.
They'd like the independence. Doug, I really appreciate your insights. This was great.
Thank you.
Happy July 4th to you and yours.
You too.
Thank you, sir.